Ladies and gentlemen, a very warm welcome to this special panel discussion in the run-up to the Ministerial Conference on Marine Litter and Plastic Pollution, which takes place in the third quarter of 2021. I know that you can't see anything right now. You can only hear. We are having some technical issues with the video, but we have, in the interest of time, decided to begin as audio only until we get that fixed. So my apologies for that. My name is Axel Threlfall. I'm editor-at-large at Reuters, based out of London. And I'm thrilled to be hosting another session on this important subject, facilitated by UNEP. This initiative is one that has been co-convened by 4 countries, Ecuador, Germany, Ghana, and Vietnam, with a view to keeping up the much needed momentum that has been built up in this space ahead of UNEA 5.2 in February next year. It also, of course, follows the announcement made in the closing session of UNEA 5.1 a few weeks ago, and builds on the findings of the chair's summary of the ad hoc open-ended expert group on marine litter and microplastics. So today is a crucial part of what the co-conveners want to be an open and inclusive process over the next few months that will keep all of the issues on the table, what has been done, what still needs to be achieved. Of course, over the past year or so, many leaders have spoken out in favor of a new global agreement on marine litter and plastic pollution, but it is vital that this discussion moves quickly to what such an agreement would include. What commitment can governments and others make in such an agreement for it to be an effective tool to prevent pollution? So lots and lots on the table. And all of it will feed into the high-level conference later this year, with a view to nurturing the environment and drumming up the impetus for bold, ambitious steps at UNEA 5.2. Just before I introduce our speakers, can I remind you we are taking questions towards the end of this session. So in about 30, 40 minutes from now, if you've got a question or an intervention, please write it in the Q&A box, and I'll do my best to get to that. Importantly, please identify your government or your organization when you send that message through. Let me introduce our speakers, and apologies as well to all of our speakers that we're not able to see you right now. Again, we're having this technical issue, or there is a technical issue at Mission Control in Nairobi, and hopefully that will be sorted at some point soon. Our speakers are the ministers from the 4 countries that I mentioned, plus the executive director at UNEP. From Ecuador, Mr. Marcelo Mata, Minister of Environment and Water. From Germany, Jochen Flassbart, the State Secretary at the Federal Ministry for the Environment, Nature Conservation and Nuclear Safety of Germany. From Ghana, Dr. Kwaku Afriye, Minister of Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation. From Vietnam, Ta Dinh Thi, Director General from the Vietnam Administration of Seas and Islands. And last but certainly not least, Inge Anderson, Executive Director at UNEP. So a warm welcome to all of you. I'd like to start with some short introductory statements from each speaker, the elevator pitch, if you like, on your individual initiatives, what will inspire this audience about what you've achieved so far. So let me give you 3 minutes each. I need to be pretty strict on this because we've already lost some time. I'm going to do this in alphabetical order to Minister Marcelo Mata from Ecuador to start with, please. To the minister from Ecuador, can you hear me okay? If you are speaking, you're on mute.
Good morning, I'm here.
Good morning, yes. Please go ahead, the floor is yours. Yeah, can the minister from Ecuador hear me okay?
Can I begin?
Yes.
Can you hear me okay?
Hear us? Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Yes, the floor is yours. Please go ahead. You've got about 2-3 minutes.
Okay, good morning, dear colleagues. For Ecuador, it's a pleasure to be able to participate in this dialogue. But above all of the part of this group of countries that we have come together to work on the organization of a ministerial conference that promotes and facilitates the path to the new global agreement on marine litter and plastic pollution. I would like to thank UNEP and the presidency of UNEA, currently in charge of Norway. I'm glad to start this dialogue pointing out that the health of the oceans is under heavy pressure and increasing from pollution and non-sustainable use of its spaces and resources, especially by marine litter, with plastics being one of the main problems. These pressures do not have a single environment impact, but affect all the economic, social, and cultural benefits and contributions derived from the oceans and seas, as well as jeopardize the development of the full potential of the blue economy. To address this problem, Ecuador has taken a firm position against marine litter as one of the most urgent environmental problems in recent years, both nationally and internationally. And for this, it has been working for some years and from several fronts to combat plastic with food pollution, in addition to promote a comprehensive and cross-sectoral treatment of plastics throughout its life cycle. Since the Rio Plus 20 conference in 2012, when Ecuador had the honor to negotiate the Oceans and Seas chapter on behalf of developing countries. In my country, has included a specific reference in a final document, the future we want, to include a specific reference to the worrying situation of marine plastics pollution in this impact of marine ecosystems, as well as on the need for urgent international actions for its protection. This same position was maintained in the negotiation of 2030 agenda and the goals in SDGs, of which included the important containment to prevent and significantly reduce marine pollution of all kinds, especially those produced by plastics, as well as achieve ecologically management of chemicals and wastes throughout their life cycle. In accordance with agreement international frameworks, while promoting prevention, reduction, recycle, and reuse activities. Along the same line, Ecuador has supported the treatment of this problem through the 4 resolutions of the United Nations Environment Assembly, the 2018 action plan under the International Maritime Organization, and decisions of 2019 under the Basel Convention to improve control of cross-border movements of certain types of recyclable plastic waste. Ecuador also participates in other multilateral infinities, such as the Group of Friends of the Combat of Marine Plastics established at the level of the permanent missions of the United Nations in New York. And we are also part of the Clean Seas Initiative, launched in 2017. Thank governments, the general public, and the private sector in the fight against marine plastic pollution. At the regional level, Ecuador, together with other countries that are part of the Standing Committee of the South Pacific and the Action Plan of the Protection of the Marine Environment and Coast Areas of the South Pacific, Colombia, Chile, Panama, and Peru, also continue making important efforts to reduce the impact of marine litter.
Minister, Minister, this is Axel, the moderator. I am going to have to rush you a little bit, I'm afraid.
Okay, exchange good practice and comprehensive protection measures through working group of marine litter and several actions. At the national level, we also made the decision to combat the problem plastics by strengthening existing legal frameworks. So in December 2020, the organic law for the rationalization, reuse, and reduction of single-use plastics was adopted. Finally, we believe that it's essential to understand that the eradication of marine litter is a problem that is not only on the country's responsibility, it is joint work where comprehensive policies and measures must be implemented that respond to the needs and urgency that pollution levels have resulted from different ecosystems. The path is marked, and events such as the pandemic by COVID are leaving us a great lesson about how fragile our societies and economies are in the face of nature, and now how it can be recovered if we all add efforts. For this reason, joining the new global agreement of marine pollution by plastics will mark the beginning of the commitment of a new relationship between our international community and nature in a post-COVID era. Thank you very much.
Minister, thank you very much. Can I hand the floor to State Secretary Jochen Flassbart from Germany? State Secretary, the floor is yours.
Thank you, moderator. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you fine. Apologies, we still can't see you, but we can hear you fine.
No problem. Yeah, dear moderator, dear Inga Anderson, dear colleagues from Ecuador, Ghana, and Vietnam, it's really a great pleasure to participate in this international panel on marine litter and plastic pollution.
We now can see you, by the way. Just I wanted to make everyone aware the video issue has been resolved and we can see you. Please continue.
How great. And I just was going to say that it would be much better to at least see you on the screen, and now immediately it happened. So great to have you all here on this screen as we are in a situation that we cannot meet in person. This is what we can, and actually it's great to have this platform here together, and thanks to you, Inga, that UNEP provided us the platform for this very important discussion. And dear colleagues, oceans are, besides the forests, I think the most impressive ecosystem of our planet. But despite their enormous size, they are extremely fragile. And as Marcello just mentioned, these oceans, our oceans, under enormous stress by climate change, by overfishing, and what the topic of our today's meeting and the discussions ahead of us are, it's under stress by pollution. And the most obvious and prominent one is marine litter. And I mean, what a dramatic situation, what a disaster that a huge garbage patch in the Pacific can be seen from the distance of a satellite. It's so obvious that we are doing wrong. And people around the world expect it from governments, from us, to act, to address these problems and to find solution to stop marine litter around the globe. For this reason, Germany, as a first country, put marine litter on the agenda of the G7 under our presidency back in 2015 and on the agenda of the G20, also under our presidency back in 2017. And also UNEA 4 addressed the issue in 2019. Was so lucky that was still a time when we could meet each other there in Nairobi. Also UNEA 4 dealt with the plastic and marine litter issue. But to be very honest, unfortunately, political progress on this issue back in UNEA 4 was very small. We didn't have the political momentum at that time, and that was the reason why I, in person for Germany, announced to invite for a meeting of like-minded countries to prepare for a more powerful approach at UNEA 5, with a clear target to start a negotiation process and to establish a negotiation committee at UNEA 5.2 next February. And the aim is that we will finally get an internationally dedicated agreement on plastic pollution and marine litter. I'm really very happy to be a part of a team with Ecuador, Ghana, and Vietnam to push this process. And to push it on a political level is very much needed to get the machinery in action. And we will do so by convening a ministerial conference, as already mentioned by my colleague from Ecuador, on marine litter and plastic pollution in the third quarter of 2021. Finally, in my opening remarks, I want to mention that we do feel a lot of tailwind. Many countries are supporting the idea of an international agreement, and a lot has happened since UNEA 4, that HOC open-ended expert group that got another mandate in Nairobi, concluded its work at the end of 2020. We saw a lot of activities, for example, just to mention it, from Canada, with the Canada Ocean Plastic Charter and the Osaka Blue Ocean Vision. Norway, our dear president of UNEA, our friend Sveinung Rotevatn, did enormously well on this issue. We appreciate very much the leadership by Norway and Sveinung. And so I'm quite positive and looking forward to the other interventions, to vital debate today, and finally a very successful ministerial to prepare Inga for our UNEA 5.2. Thanks.
Thank you very much indeed, State Secretary. And we will, by the way, be hearing from Minister Rotevatn in just a moment. Let me go to Ghana. Dr. Kwaku Afriye is the Minister of Environment, Science and Technology in Ghana. Minister, the floor is yours for your opening remarks. Go ahead.
Hello.
Hello. Yes, can you hear me? Yes, we can see you okay.
Yes.
You might want to tilt your camera down just a little bit, Minister, so we can see you.
All right, Mr. Moderator. Yeah, thank you very much.
There you go.
You see me?
Yeah, maybe a little bit further so we can see you. A little bit, tilt it down a little bit further, and then we'll be ready to go. Yeah, that works well. Go ahead.
Right. Fine. That's it. Thank you, Mr. Moderator, and good afternoon to colleagues from Germany, Ecuador, Vietnam, and also from UNEA. My statement will be very brief indeed, and I will be talking about the commitment and proposals for Ghana, from Ghana, and the nature, a bit on the nature of the problems as we see it, and then efforts by Ghana these times, and then also about a little bit of our strategic decisions that we've taken. And then we will conclude, or I will conclude. Ghana is fully committed to the formulation and enforcement of the legally binding global agreement that regulates marine litter and plastic pollution and demands accountability from actors who cause them. Ghana proposes an agreement that places an obligation on the states to control the discharge of plastic waste into the environment and provides the framework for supporting member states to do so. Under the agreement, governments must be held accountable if they fail to meet their obligations. Plastic pollution and marine litter have reached crisis proportions, and every year millions of tons of plastic waste enter the world's oceans, and numbers are predicted to grow exponentially if drastic and urgent measures are not taken. Plastic pollution affects wildlife, contaminates fish stocks, and degrades the natural habitats. The reality is that production and trading in plastic materials and e-waste are transboundary, and indeed, so through ocean currents, plastics float around the world within a single boundless or borderless space. Therefore, the menace of marine litter and plastic pollution has become a classic example of global problem that requires a global solution and action. Since 2019, Ghana has partnered the World Economic Forum as the first regional partner in Africa to host the Global Plastic Action Partnership, a global initiative that seeks to harness the forum's convening power to facilitate strategic dialogue with the global community and to seek international cooperation to address the plastic pollution. This partnership was created in pursuit of the objectives of Ghana National Plastic Management Policy, which outlines the bold initiatives that Ghana is taking to tackle the menace of plastic pollution. The policy is a demonstration of Ghana's commitment to clean and protect the environment and to create jobs in the process for our people and to grow the national economy. The National Plastic Action Partnership, NPAP, has emerged to drive the establishment of a circular economy. A circular economic framework as the primary vehicle for reducing marine litter and plastic pollution in Ghana. In that regard, Ghana's NPAP has already been acting as the convener of nations and global businesses and as a catalyst for initiatives and funding to address marine litter and plastic pollution. Ghana intends to leverage on GPAP and our membership in other global organizations to promote the formulation and enforcement of the global agreement on marine litter and plastic pollution. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister from Ghana. Let me move it on to Vietnam. Ta Dinh Thi is Director General at the Vietnam Administration of Seas and Islands. Director General, if you could turn your camera on, we will be able to see you now. Go ahead, the floor is yours. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. First of all, I would like to thank you very much, Germany, Mr. Zochan Frachas, for your initiative, and our colleagues from UN Environment, Ecuador, Ghana, to organize this virtual meeting. And for this meeting, I think that it's very important and very significant for our input to ongoing meeting in near future for the negotiation of global agreement on ocean waste, plastic waste agreement. And here I would like to say our some past achievement and our future plan to combat plastic debris in Vietnam forward to the global agreement on this important issue. Number one here, Vietnam achievement and efforts in combating marine plastic debris, recognizing the role in addressing the global plastic debris crisis. Vietnam had made great efforts and committed to strong action to reduce plastic debris in order to protect marine and ocean ecosystem environment. In 2017, we officially joined the list of 127 countries on globe that passed the UN Environment Council resolution of United Nations Environment Programme on plastic debris and marine microplastic. In 2018, SG7 Summit held in Canada, our Prime Minister pledged to act and call for global cooperation in solving the problem of marine plastic debris. As the conference of the the party issue resolution number 36, in 2018 on National Strategy for Sustainable Development of Vietnam Marine Economy until 2030 and vision until 2045. And we set the targets preventing, controlling, and significantly reducing pollution of marine environment. And Vietnam will become pioneering in the region in reducing marine plastic debris. And in 2019, our Prime Minister launched a national movement against plastic waste. The movement has spread to the many communities across the country, especially coastal community, bringing positive result. And we also convince the donor and international community also join our movement. On 2019 December, and our government also has the decision promulgating the National Action Plan on Ocean Plastic Debris Management by 2030. And also we have the directive on strengthening the management, reuse, recycling, treatment, and minimizing of plastic debris, further enhancing the effectiveness of management, reuse, recycling, and treatment of used plastic, minimization plastic debris emission into the environment.
Yeah. Director General, I'm going to have to hurry you along a little bit. My apologies.
Sorry?
This is Axel, the moderator. I'm going to have to hurry you on a little bit. We need to move on a little bit more quickly.
Okay, thank you very much.
My apologies.
Yes, so I would like to mention some more. And 2020, we passed the law on environment protection. Also, we also pushed in the ocean plastic issue into this law. And recently our Prime Minister also passed a scheme, a ratified scheme of negotiating and participating the Ocean Plastic Waste Agreement. Is our discussing, and we fully support and are willing to participate in the discussion to jointly develop the Ocean Plastic Waste Agreement on the basis and of respect for the international law within the framework of UN for blue ocean, green action, and peace, stability, and prosperity. Thank you.
Thank you very much indeed, Director General. Look, just before we come to Inga Anderson, I want to remind everyone, after this, or in a little while, I will be coming to the floor for questions. So if you have questions or interventions, put them into the Q&A box. Do remember to tell us which government you represent or which organization you represent. To Inga Anderson, Executive Director at UNEP. Inga, the floor is yours.
I'm trying to be short here because there's I'm sure it'll be interesting to have a conversation, but let's just say on this plastic issue, enough is enough, right? We've seen what's happening. We know the data, we know the facts. The Arctic is pervasively polluted by microfibers from our washing machine. A study finds plastic in the placentas of mothers of unborn babies. And we've just now, the other day, seen a study come out that speaks to the endocrine interference that happens on fertility and the phthalates that plastics, the chemicals that plastics contain, and understanding how this is now undermining our very health and of the unborn. So let's understand that it's time for action. That's sort of, we have the facts. And this was, by the way, Shanna Swan's study, which I haven't had the time to read. I've only read the headlines. So in the spirit of wanting to read it and understand it more, but nevertheless, there we have it. We're beginning to understand that fertility, our health, as well as our planetary health are impacted. And that is the story of UNEP right now. We're talking about these three planetary crises: the climate crisis, the biodiversity and nature crisis, and obviously the pollution and waste. And plastic floats right across this as it enters our oceans. So at the same time, our plastic consumption is up, and the regulatory settings around this are not where they need to be in any place whatsoever. Now, what is good is that there's a lot of, and thanks to Germany, thanks to Ecuador, thanks to Ghana, thanks to Vietnam, and many others for leaning in on this issue, but clearly we're not where we need to be. Lots of good initiatives. We at UNEP, we're proud to host the Global Partnership on Marine Litter. It has leveraged a lot of connections. About 400 actors are facilitating and engaging in action plans at the country level. We're working very much with the Ellen MacArthur Foundation there on the new plastics economy with many, I think it's a large number of signatories that we have signed up to working on, and with the aim of getting 100% of all government signatories pledged to phase out the worst categories of plastic. And we need to obviously step outside our echo chambers. And so we've had a number of campaigns and the Regional Seas program. All of this is good, but it's not leveraging the change that we need to see. So we've been very happy to be the platform that hosts the ad hoc expert group that member states have been obviously leading to dialogue around this topic and to see where it can best land, irrespective of where it lands in terms of global agreement or not. One thing is for sure, that the status quo as we know it is not a place to remain. Something has to give. And it's not just the plastics in the ocean, it's the entire supply chain. And it is about circularity. It is about keeping plastics in the economy and not having it go back into the environment. So I very much am encouraged by this conversation, and I look forward to engaging with ministers, with experts, with specialists, with NGOs, with conservationists, and with health professionals, because we're beginning to understand that all of this hangs together. So with that, then, let me turn it over to you, Alex, because I know we are short of time. Thank you.
Inga Anderson, thank you very much indeed, and I appreciate that. And I will come back to you, by the way. I'd like to find out where you think we need to be by February 2022, UNEA 5.2. I'll come back to that in just a second. Norway's Minister of Climate and Environment, Sveinung Rotevatn, as Germany alluded to, of course, is president of UNEA right now. He's unable to join us live today for this event, but did send a video message, which we would like to play now. Go ahead.
Excellencies, colleagues, dear friends. Marine plastic litter and plastic pollution remains one of the fastest growing environmental concerns of our time. There will be no vaccine against plastic pollution. Since the first session of UNEA back in 2014, the global community has worked systematically to address this important issue. Our knowledge and understanding of the issue, as well as the solutions, have evolved over the years. We have enough knowledge to act. During the Science Policy Business Forum preceding the UNEA 5 online session, we heard key messages from the most to-date global assessment on marine plastic litter and plastic pollution. This report is being prepared by UNEP in response to the request made at UNEA 4 in 2019. Serious concerns were expressed by experts on the existential threats to ecosystems, human health, economies, and social well-being caused by the rapid growth in the generation of plastic waste if we fail to mitigate this issue. But we also heard very good news at the UNEA 5 online session. That is the willingness of countries to continue their efforts to find solutions to the most pressing environmental challenges we are facing, even in these difficult times. Many spoke out in favor of a new global agreement to prevent and reduce marine plastic litter and plastic pollution. The ad hoc open-ended expert group fulfilled their mandate in November 2020. There was a unanimous call in the group to all member states and stakeholders to recognize the magnitude and urgency of this issue, to seriously consider the identified options, and to work cooperatively toward UNEA 5. We hear that call loud and clear. Your initiative is a response to that call. I commend Ecuador, Germany, Ghana, and Vietnam for joining forces to convene the first ever ministerial conference on marine litter and plastic pollution. This conference presents a unique opportunity for high-level discussions on how best to tailor our global commitments. It will prepare the grounds for an ambitious decision to be taken towards a new global agreement, hopefully at UNEA 5 Part 2 in February 2022. I look forward to attending the ministerial conference myself, and I wish you a very successful panel discussion today.
All right. Many thanks to Sveinung Rotevatn for his words. I want to come to some questions now. I also want to encourage you, our audience out there, to put your own questions to this esteemed panel. Type them into the Q&A box, or otherwise we'll see you pop up and you can ask your questions directly. I have one to start with, and I'd like to pose this, if I may, to Germany. Global multilateral agreements or agreements between governments. So I want to know how a new agreement can engage industry. I want to know how an agreement can engage civil society, both in official proceedings and any parallel sessions. So there's a bit of my question there. That question also comes from Ciel and the EIA. State Secretary, please go ahead.
Thanks, moderator. Thanks, Axel. It's of course not up to Germany, but I think we have a lot, I would say tons of experiences and very good experiences that whenever we have international negotiation processes, we have best positive examples if we include civil society, science, different stakeholders. So the more inclusive we organize such a process, the better the results might be. So I'm convinced that this will be an agreement, and especially UNEP, Inger, and the UN Environment Conventions. We always have civil society, environmental groups, industry groups within the negotiation process. And it's always good that we have their experiences on board as well.
Thank you very much indeed, State Secretary. I'd like to go to Ecuador, if I could, with a question. And perhaps you could use this as an opportunity to provide us with a little bit more on the initiatives in the run-up to the conference and at the end of this year. For example, policy dialogues. The Minister from Ecuador, what are you hoping for very quickly in the run-up now? Minister Marcelo Mata, can you hear me okay?
Yes, I'm here. Excuse me.
Would you like me to repeat the question?
No.
Okay, please go ahead. Please go ahead. You have about 2 minutes to respond to this.
Okay, only technology problems there, but there is the result. Based on global, regional, or national commits, targets, measures, or initiatives, Ecuador continues to prepare internally for implementation while promoting the strengthening and promoting and regulatory frameworks at the international level with a view of activating their synergy, coherence, and effective implementation in the face of the growing threat of this type of pollution. In this regard, an important fact is recent entry into force of the amendments to the annexes of the Basel Convention since January 2021 that had required new measures to regulate the importation of plastic waste, as well as the promotion partnerships with local governments and the private sector in order to create conditions to subtitles, then through a better management and recycling of plastic waste system. The problem of marine plastic waste pollution requires attention to the regulation of terrestrial resource of plastics, microplastics, and other wastes. Ecuador has adopted and now is developing several initiatives or instruments such as the Organic Environmental Code in force since 2088 and 2019 regulations, which regulate those issues necessary for proper environmental management and the cross-border movement of waste. Another important milestone in the organic law for rationalization, reuse, and reduction of single-use plastics, which laws then provisions for the control or important or practical products. This law has direct implications for combating plastic pollution at sea, so it applies primarily in national parks, protected areas, beaches, lagoons, lakes, islands, and river banks.
Okay, Minister, I'm going to have to hurry you along. I'm afraid. Apologies.
Similarly, the law establishes obligations to the decentralized autonomous governments, for example, to promote to use reusable cases and bags made from recyclable and biodegradable or alternative plastic materials. In addition, Ecuador has created tributary incentives to promote the acquisition of machinery, equipment, of technology for cleaner production, and also the redeemable tax of PET plastic bottles of 2 cents when plastic bottles are returned to the producer for recycling. On the other hand, since 2018, the Navy's Oceanographic Institute has been developing a project called Microplastics in Ecuadorian Eastern Pacific Ocean and the Galapagos Island, with co-financing from International Atomic Energy Organization, which includes quality monitoring, origin identification, environmental assessment, circulation model, and aquatic ecotoxicity assessment. Also, since 2019, the first sampling of mesoplastics is carried out on the beaches and the mainland and Iceland, Ecuador.
Okay.
To learn more.
Yeah.
Okay, that's okay.
Go ahead. My huge apologies, Minister, but I am going to have to ask you to wrap up very shortly. Yep.
Finally, Ecuador has taken actions and made to restoration of environment through cleaning marine and terrestrial ecosystems found in our jurisdiction, also by boosting community awareness campaigns to remove of waste for the bodies of water. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister, and apologies again for rushing you. Got a very wary eye on the time. There's 2 or 3 questions I want to pick up on from our audience. The first, if I could, is to Vietnam, and it relates to production and consumption, sustainable production and consumption. And the question is this: can you address specifically reduced consumption? People consume plastic thinking it would be recycled, but it was dumped. So are companies responsible for this misinformation? And secondly, do societies need to make the hard choices of reducing consumption instead of promoting just win-win ideas? So from Vietnam, it's this focus on the production and the consumption that this questioner feels is so critical here.
Thank you very much. I think that here, you know, for the production and consumption, we have the combined between you know, the private sector and public sector, and here, so I think that we need to focus the, you know, the chain of production. You know, here. So we have the mechanism to involve on the producer and consumer, and so the government, we need to have the law and enforcement, including for the producer and for the consumer for this issue. So here, I think that we need to have the, how can I say, the top down and bottom up, the top down and bottom up the approaches, and so we have you know, the raising awareness for all group, for all at all level, and also for all the community, as you know, Mr. Fratbast mentioned before. Yes. So here I would like to have our message that we need to elaborate on the importance of you know, have the mechanism for producer and for consumer, and we need to have the high political will on marine litter and plastics pollution as the upcoming UNEA next year.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Director General. Look, I am going to have to wrap this up. There are a number of journalists waiting for the press conference to start, and all the ministers and all the panelists here need to be at that press conference. So my apologies that we have not delved a little bit deeper into some of these issues, but we got a very, very good sense from all of you what it is you are hoping to achieve here. So I'd like to thank the Minister from Ecuador, State Secretary from Germany, the Minister from Ghana, Director General from Vietnam, and Inga Anderson, the Executive Director at UNEP. My thanks to all of you who've asked your questions. I will leave you now for the press conference. Thanks very much indeed.
Thank you very much.
Thank you to the colleagues. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Thank you all. Adios.
Okay.
Really?